So Glenn Beck was talking today about truth in regards to free speech. Because in California, they're going to start going after doctors' licenses if they don't adhere to the Communist Disease Control Center, the CDC. And we used to have a country where doctors were independent, but they haven't been for a couple of years now. Most people probably don't know that, but they still are in some sects, but really they're used to just having to follow what the CDC says. That's not what our country used to be about. But because of overeducated professors, overeducated experts that came out of Satan's synagogue, that's what happens over time, is those kinds of things. And it is because of those people. They fight for all of the wrong things and yet use all this jargon to make it sound so good. They're such scumbags. And they don't even know they're scumbags because they can't step outside of their Satan synagogue box to see who they are. But he was saying that the founders fought about, well, no, the government has to be truthful. Well, nobody's ever going to be truthful. I mean, you can't expect mankind to be truthful. We're a bunch of sinners. But I would say this. The people that you can count on the most to do right by the country are the God-fearing people. The God-fearing people are the people that have a relationship with God and aren't going to lie just because they don't want to be held accountable. They know God will hold them accountable. Look at all of the experts that you're told are experts. They're godless people. They can say they believe in God, but they wouldn't do the things they're doing, like many of your law professors, forever we've all known that. Is there a lawyer on the planet you trust? I really don't. Maybe Lynn would, but even I'd hold out with that. I'm just kidding. Maybe I wouldn't, but he's maybe the only honest lawyer I've ever, seen post. It's a lawyer. That's not to say that every lawyer's bad, but the reputation of lawyers is pretty shady because of some of the things they do. I've never had really good experiences with lawyers, but not that I've had to have lawyers a lot, but many of these, but here's the difference. Lynn Wood, he's a God-fearing man. So that's why I believe what he posts, because you could tell by his post, he's a God-fearing man. So when you are God-fearing and you have a relationship with God, then that's the first thing that comes to your mind. Like if you think about, I'm just going to say this white lie, is that, oh, no, God's going to hold me accountable to that. If you don't have people like that in government, and we haven't, Trump was the exception. But every other administration, no matter what party, they've all been scumbags. I mean, they really have. They've been the dirtiest, most rottenest people. And but because they put on a nice suit, it makes you think, they know so much. Or because they came out of Yale or Harvard or wherever, it makes you think they know everything. We've had the most educated people in the White House, in government, and look at where America is. So it should go to tell you that all those experts that the news likes to put on, and all those overeducated law professors, medicine people, science people, these are all people that when they say expert, it's like I've said in other videos, you have to start to reverse everything that is said so that you're closer to the truth. They're not experts. They can't step outside the box. They believe they're expert. They do. I'll give them that. They believe it. It doesn't mean they are. Just because they know some nice big fancy words and put it all together and it sounds good to you, it doesn't mean they're expert at anything. They're definitely not experts. They came out of the synagogue of Satan. All of the universities produce that. There is no more. You will lose your moral character if you had any before you went in. And coming right out of high school, going into the university, you haven't had time to get to know yourself. You really haven't. You're the perfect specimen to start controlling and making you believe what the university, the synagogue of Satan, wants you to believe. Do they tell you some truths? Sure, so that they look legit. But they tell you a whole bunch of lies and they radicalize you, and you don't even know they do it. So Glenn was saying that the founders fought about this because they said that basically they said anybody, because they were going to stand by freedom of speech, it meant that even if somebody knowingly got on the news, got on whatever, and said falsehood, they knowingly said it, they knowingly said lies. He says that the founders said that they have a right to say it because of freedom of speech. So what it comes down to is that's why you want to have not experts, not Ivy League people. You want God-fearing people in leadership roles. Because those people, it's not that they're some great person, but they know that God will hold them accountable. And so there's a reason why over time they've wanted to get rid of God, and the synagogue of Satan are great at convincing you there's no God and that Satan never existed while you sit in Satan's classroom. But they want to get rid of that, because the more that you can remove God, the biblical God, out of the country, the more that you will see people just do whatever they want. You'll see people just becoming obsessed with themselves. Look around. Are people not obsessed with themselves? The Kardashians should have been a really big red flag for a lot of people. There was really no reason for them. It's not like they're talented at anything. And I'm not trying to rip on them. I'm just saying that they're all superficial. They're very superficial. I mean, could you ever imagine trying to have a conversation with any of those people? I couldn't. They're just shallow. They're just shallow people. They don't know themselves. Whatever the university, they've just been programmed. So there's a reason why it's more important to get to know who you are. Because otherwise you go right into the university and then some professor tells you all this and it's like, yeah, I'm going to hate Trump even though I don't know why I'm going to hate him, but because my professor said this and that. Well, it should tell you what a hateful group your university professors are, because that's all they are. They're hateful because that's what they were trained how to become. And that's why all of their things that they push, they make it sound good, but it's never good for America. It never is. And it's the reason, so it's those experts, those lawyers that have been in office, that came out of the universities, that then depend on the experts they put on the news, that get into the CDC, and you're told to know everything, that ends up causing our country to fall more into destruction, because they're not experts. Your true experts are your people that are God-fearing people, that know that there's something higher than all of us, and that God sees all. There's many times I've wanted to, and not to say that I've never lied. I mean, I have, but I've lived and learned too. It's not worth it, because there's a reason why it's important to have remorse. And we have universities that like to take remorse away. And most of your professors, they're narcissists. They don't have remorse. They're in a box. If you, like I said this before, if you can't step outside the box of your education, then you're mind controlled. It's as simple as that. What happens when kids, young adults, go into the university? They come out toddlers. They do. They have temper tantrums because somebody disagrees with them. So do you think education is really doing a whole lot of good for anybody? No, it's not. It's caused more disease, it's caused more harm, it's caused more control over people, it's caused more lunatics, and it's caused a bunch of people to graduate from these Ivy League universities and be nothing but narcissist toddlers. So those are the people you don't want in leadership levels, because it's your God-fearing people. And I think our founders were God-fearing people, and that's why I think it was probably only for a little while that the Constitution worked. Like, Glenn loves the Constitution, supposedly, right? And I'm not bashing the Constitution. I'm just wondering, did it ever really work? Because I've known long before these past several years, or before Trump came into office, how bad, like, my profession is. How the lengths that your director of nursing or nurse managers, most of them, will go to get rid of you. They'll set you up. They'll change the number of drugs in the Pyxis machine. They'll lie about you. They don't care. So when you see more of that in society, when you start seeing more narcissists in society, than people that care about others, then you have to look at all of your leadership levels, and that includes all of your universities, and whether it's medicine, science, all of it, because they're all doing something really wrong, and they can't clean it up because it's infected. It's like an infected, like you have to root the whole thing out and throw it away. And then those go on. Those are always the people. What is the biggest problem with America? It's all your overeducated that get into the office. It is. It's your CEOs. Yeah, they have got all your hospital CEOs. There's not one in this country that has a moral compass. They're all scumbags. I've seen too many. They're such scumbags. So people have wondered what the public-private partnership means. So that means the government is colluding with the private companies. So the government's colluding with big tech. The government's colluding with the hospitals, have been for a long time. Government's colluding with all your unions and associations. Government's colluding with the universities, and they have been for a long time. And they've been slowly doing that over time. And so now they have so much control over those industries. It's why we don't have a medical system anymore that operates where doctors can be independent in their diagnoses and treatment, and in other ways. And yet, instead of your most educated, those professors, seeing how over time there's been more freedoms taken away, there's been more restrictions put on people, they stay in their box and they just think everything's normal. That's how stupid they are. So when I call them stupid, it truly isn't to be mean, it's because they are. They don't know how to step outside the box and put away their education for a little while and just observe things and observe themselves in the world. And likely many of them will never be able to do it because of the fact that they've only known themselves as their education. I didn't go to nursing school until later in life, so I had plenty of time to get to know myself, especially being a mess as I was 30-something years ago with drinking. So I'm saying this from experience. The truly people that would protect the country and do good by the country are your God-fearing people, your people that have a relationship with God. There's a reason why, Nancy, many of your radical left are godless people, because they know that if God is at the center of a country and that most of the people are relying on God to lead them, then it's not a country you can destroy. But God has been pushed out with the help of your radical Satan synagogue universities. And that's the reason why we have, even in grade school, teachers that are so sick in their mind that they're pushing children to change their genders. And there's not one professor in this country that's stood up against that. So those are not experts. That should be on full display for everyone. And those same experts aren't saying anything about all the millions of people that have been taken off of Twitter, off of Facebook, off of YouTube, off of all of these social media platforms. No, because really, if they looked inside themselves, they'd realize they want all those people to be silenced. They don't want to have to listen to somebody that doesn't agree with them. They're not mature enough for that. They aren't. But they won't look at themselves to really even see that truth inside themselves. See, it's uncomfortable sometimes to look at yourself, but that's how you grow. That's why I can tell you not one professor in this country is an emotionally mature person. Not one that's so hard. Let me put it this way, not as far as science, medicine, law, and technology go. Maybe the other professors is different, but there's just not, because really the way it should have been is let you get to know yourself. Truly, you can be more balanced in the way you see things and all of it, and then go get your education. Because otherwise, when you get out of school, high school, and you go right into the university, that university is just going to put in your mind what you're then going to believe the rest of your life. Like you'll likely never change many of those views. That's why the professors have such control over things. They have such sway. because it's an impressionable age and you form your opinions in the university. So if most of your university are filled with godless commie professors, which they are, that's all that's there, then what's going to happen is that's going to produce a bunch of narcissistic toddlers that graduate and think, oh yeah, I have a great job making this great money, but I'm just a little toddler because I can't handle if anybody disagrees with me. So then what do they do? What do those people do? Well, we have to put a stop to people speaking up or having freedom of speech. That's why they're godless commies. So you don't hear any of those professors speaking up, or that association, that freedom of expression thing that Heidi Katrosa was heading up. You'll never see them protect conservative rights. I mean, those are the people, if they really cared about what they stand on, that they would be doing something about all the big tech that's taken down millions of accounts. But they won't, because they want those accounts removed, because they're too immature to actually look at themselves and see, you know what, I'm the bad person. It's not all these people I'm calling narcissists and calling bad. I'm the bad one. They don't want to look at that part of them. So you can look at really the overeducated as the ones that have caused the country to fall into ruins. It's the reason I say enough with the experts. The experts, yeah, they're experts at no common sense. And so they've caused everything, science, medicine, technology, government, to fall into ruins. The only arbiter of truth is God. And God knows all truth. And this is what God had to say about truth and the world, actually. This is John 14:7. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. The world cannot receive it. What does that mean? That means that most of the world doesn't want to know truth. And so what happens with that is that you're going to have a world that's going to be more corrupt. It doesn't matter. You're going to always have the corrupt people in office because they're going to come out of the universities, and you're going to be told every generation how the expert they are. And really, they're just expert at being godless commies. And that proves the Bible too. So most people that until Jesus returns, you can try to have the best possible society, but you're never going to really have it until Jesus returns and judges the world. Your professors will think that's all nonsense because they've never matured emotionally nor spiritually. Not 99.999%. Haven't. They've just been grown up to believe, oh, when they start learning in high school, I have to go off to college if I want to make this much money and that much money. Devil traps you right away with that money trick, huh? So, the only arbiter of truth is truly God. So, if you truly want to have a good system, then you have to have truly God-fearing people that are afraid, not because they're good people, because they want to do right, like they do want to do right, but ultimately what they truly fear is they don't want to be judged by God. The people that are worried about being judged by God, those are the people that will do right by the country. And those are the people that will keep a country from falling into the hands of godless commies.